Welcome everyone to the third Thursday call held by the Co-Creators Convergence. I'm Noelle Marshall.
And I'm Bob Warner.
And together we call ourselves Light Partners. We're husband and wife and been together, 40 years or something like that. And big fans, big students of Barbara Marx Hubbard. And we might tell a little bit of our story, but today we have Stephen Dynako with us of Humanities team, and he also is very involved with Barbara, was co-teaching with him as Barbara left the planet. And just for a set of formalities, Bob, why don't you tell, are you going to tell them about CCC?
I can do that.
All right. We're going to tell you a little bit about our group, the Co-Creators Convergence, which is a non-membership thing. Anyone is welcome to join our Facebook page, and he's going to tell you different ways, a little bit about us and how to join us if you so choose.
Welcome everyone. Very excited to have Stephen with us tonight, and everyone that's on the recording live, as well as those that are going to be picking up this recording later. We know there's always plenty of folks that this time conflicts with, and so they have a chance to pick it up off of our website. I want to tell you the Co-Creators Convergence is a, as Noelle said, a non-membership group, if you will, of conscious evolutionaries who are committed to our own growth and the support of those around us and the care to be a part of this very heart-filled, unified community. We are, there's 4 ways that people connect with this community. We have a very active Facebook page, Co-Creators Convergence. We have, secondly, a website where we have pictures from all of our gatherings and other activities, events that are coming up, and very significantly, copies of these Zoom calls, and prior to when we did Zoom video calls, our audio calls that we've done on a monthly basis since 2014. So an amazing number of folks have joined us on our third Thursday calls. And you're welcome to join the take a look at the website to find those.
And we also have quite a few with Barbara Marx Hubbard, because
yes.
she was the godmother of she is the godmother of our organization.
Absolutely, absolutely. So these are the opportunities to connect with us: Facebook, a website, and these third Thursday calls. You're welcome at any time. And also, you may want to be the principal for one of our calls, or invite someone to be a guest on one of our calls to get to know our community better. And the third way to be connected with this community is to sit in circle with us. We just completed last month our 7th annual Co-Creators Convergence at Sunrise Ranch, and we already have plans going on for next year and the year following. Each year we declare a theme, and from there 6 volunteers are part of what we call the Weavers, which those are a group of people that weave together all the offers that are made by participants that are connected with a theme to help us with an experiential gathering. It's not a lecture, it's not at the front of the room. Nobody's an expert, because everybody's an expert. Everybody's a co-creator with spirit. We know that to be true, and so it is a beautiful gathering that we have each June at Sunrise Ranch in Loveland, Colorado. So with that, if there's any opportunity for you to join us and be a part of this community, we would love to have you. Noelle?
Thanks, Bob. I think now what we want to do is, okay, we have someone in the chat here. Let me just check that, just make sure they're not having any trouble.
No.
Okay. Oh, Judith McNeil says she's with wetheworld.org.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Because that's one of the things the Co-Creators Convergence does, is uplift everyone's work in the world. But when we come together in June, it's like there's a time where we need to take a breath and recharge and just co-create around our theme. This last year's theme was about the voice of co-creation, bringing truth, speaking your truth to power. So it was quite an amazing time.
It was indeed.
You're all invited. Okay, Bob, why don't you tell us something about our guest, Stephen Dynako?
Thank you. We're very excited to have Stephen join us. Stephen joined us for a short period at our convergence this year via video conference, because the first night of our event we set particularly to talk about Barbara, about the legacy of Barbara Marx Hubbard, about the connection that she is as the godmother that really brought together. She didn't do it personally, but because of her and because of her legacy and the energy that she provokes, ended up with 35 plus people in the same room in May of 2013 to be the first convergence. And we wanted to spend time to honor her legacy, and Stephen shared with us some of the things that he has seen and participated in as her legacy. So we're very excited to have Stephen with us for the full time this evening. Stephen is, like many of us, a potentialist. And he also is a seasoned producer of transformational education programs. Earlier this year and starting last year, he partnered with author and futurist Barbara Marx Hubbard to co-create Barbara's legacy program, which certainly continues on into this moment. That is the Evolutionary Ambassador Academy, which was an immersion experience to actualize one's creative potential in the world and accelerate one's personal evolutionary power. Stephen is also the producer of the Conscious Business Enterprise, which is a training and certification program for professionals seeking to further their work and impact as conscious business change agents. Both the Academy and CBI are offered by Humanities Team, which is a NGO dedicated to awakening the world to oneness within a generation. Stephen is very passionate and courageously bringing the business world his gifts of communication, leadership, and presence. And throughout his career, which has included financial, technology, and media sectors, he has been in great service, bringing realms of counseling and ministry to all of his work. So Stephen, thank you so much for spending time with us this evening.
Oh, thank you, Bob. Thank you, Noelle. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, what we'd like to do, Stephen, is you have offered to bring us in a centering, and that would be the most delicious thing I can think of right now. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and then we're going to have Stephen. Then we're going to give him the floor to be telling us what's going on with in terms of Barbara Marx Hubbard's legacy, his personal experience with her throughout the course of their relationship, and then at the end or whenever we will open it up for you can question and answers with Stephen. So we're going to go for about an hour. And contain all of that, and then if we need any additional time after that, Stephen has graciously said he would do that, but we're trying to contain it to 1 hour. So with that, over to you, dear Stephen.
Great, thank you, Noelle. So just going to invite everyone to come together in a few moments of intentional focus, and if you're comfortable, you may close your eyes and bring attention to your breathing. And just allow your breathing rhythm to progress as it naturally does. And likely what you'll notice is as you become more present in the moment, your breathing will progressively become a little deeper. And we express gratitude for this because we consciously make the choice to become fully present, fully aware, to contribute fully in this virtual room, to co-create a field of love, of power, and of devotion to the principles of conscious evolution and to Barbara's legacy and to Barbara herself, who we as well feel the presence of in this moment. We open our hearts to receive Barbara's presence. Allowing ourselves to be connected beyond the veil to the omnipotence of her spirit. And as we bask in the glow of that, we all together in this virtual Zoom room share power, share love, and share the intention to be generative, to attune to the evolutionary impulse, to do individually and collectively what we've been divinely chartered to do on this earth. And with the next breath, feeling continually grounded, increasingly centered. With the next breath, feeling more at ease, feeling this field of safety that we are all co-creating as we come into resonance with one another. And in this super aware, super conscious state, we bring every system of our physical bodies into coherence. We just silently express gratitude for this power of our intention. To become inwardly coherent and coherent with one another in the field. And coherent with Barbara's spirit beyond the veil. So with that, I just invite us all to take in one deep, collective, deep breath into your belly. And just hold it for a moment at the top. And then gently release in a sigh. And when you're ready, open your eyes, be here, and be aware right now.
Thank you, Stephen. That was really delicious. And before you begin, I'm going to just read. Barbara published in 2012 the 52 codes. And before we got on, I just opened up my copy of the 52 codes, and this one popped up. So if you allow me, I'm just going to read that and then turn it over to you. So this is code 12. And I can hear Barbara saying this. Place your attention on me, the universal self. I will lift you into the quantum landing field. Consciously identify with the universal self. Remember, I am that. Direct your universal self to infuse all aspects of your being with vitality and to guide you moment by moment. You are entering the quantum landing field within yourself, the space in consciousness for the higher frequencies of your being to land within, to infuse you with a vibration that calibrates and harmonizes all aspects of your being. Your goal is not transcendence, but transformation through incarnation of the full spectrum of selves: body, local self, essential self, universal self, becoming a whole being, a universal human for your own full potential. So, Stephen, thank you so much for bringing us into that landing field. And I'm going to turn it over to you now. I'm also going to welcome Dennis from Sunrise Ranch and
Joel.
Gina from Tennessee, Gina Maza. I don't know if that's Jules, also from Sunrise, Julie Wenzel. And I think we have Allie with us also from Fort Collins. So I think everyone else has been introduced. So thank you for joining us. It's wonderful to have everyone here to sip Stephen's wisdom, because he certainly was drinking from the fire hose when he was around Barbara Marx Hubbard. So Stephen, thank you for coming. Over to you.
Oh, you're welcome. I really appreciate this. And yeah, you're right. It's the cosmic fire hose, you know, and as well, you know, the comfort of that is that because we are all encoded with evolution, that you know, even all this information, and then and really working with Barbara since last fall was we moved at this like quantum leaps and bounds, and you know, I really learned in working with her just to trust the process and trust the impulse within me, and then among the cohort of ambassadors that we were working with. So so yeah, there's this all this information, of course, and with all the books that Barbara's written, of course, there's just a lot of information, and there's like trusting that actually everything she's written about is what's encoded in us already. So we have access to all of that, and the huge lesson I got from working with her is that we can express all of that, and it's available to us at any time in our own meditations, you know, in our own connecting with source, in our own trusting of the cosmic process. So, so, you know, as opposed to being in school and like cramming for an exam the night before, it's all there. And it's like, if we trust that, we can draw on that, you know, and we all may have different words for those concepts, but the spirit is the same.
So Stephen, what was your last class that you were working with Barbara? And so you can tell us about that, and then, you know, perhaps tell us, you know, she launched you, you know, so where do you go now? And how do you bring all of us along? So that's not too big a task, right?
No, not at all. I appreciate the question. Well, so here's the amazing thing. So I'll start, I guess, I start Barbara's last in-person, you know, on this earth class with us all was on April 4th, which was a Thursday. And she did it from her hospital bed. She had gone in either the day or 2 days before for this knee infection. And that night of that class, it was about 8 weeks in, 8 weeks of a 12-week ambassador program. So her good friends, Carolyn Anderson, who was her campaign manager when she ran for VP in '84, and Catherine Roski were both the guests that night. And you know, they had told her, you know, Barbara, you know, if you don't feel like you have to be there tonight, just rest up. And she had heard this from a couple people. It wasn't just Carolyn and Catherine. And that actually made her want to be there that night all the more on Zoom. So so she was there on Zoom from her hospital bed, and other than just seeing kind of the background, and you knew she was sitting in a hospital bed, but I would say like that she was the most focused that night, and the most right on, just laser focused, right on, and just was there with everyone, tracking everything and leading. You know, profoundly, she was leading and doing and also nurturing. You know, nurturing everyone. And it was I mean, it felt so honored that, because after that night, that following weekend, the class was Thursday night, and then by the weekend, she had lost consciousness in her body, and then transitioned the week following on the 10th. So it was just really something that this really profound experience with her in her last, program, her last teaching experience. So just really deeply honored to be part of that. And, she really, go ahead. Yeah, please.
When you said Barbara lost consciousness, I heard her say to me, "No, I didn't."
Right. Yeah. Right.
I just have a new consciousness.
There you go. Yeah.
And that's how she would always say, I'm new every day. But believe me, I didn't want to say that. It just came through.
No, you're right. Right. Yeah. And I think everyone knows what I mean by like losing the physical, that consciousness. But yeah, for sure. Because I mean, it just is, the centering practice we just did, her presence has been so strong since their transition, and I actually am careful, even like, I don't want to speak about her in the past tense because she's very present. And I feel like everything that we're continuing to do, that I'm continuing to do, that the ambassador community is continuing to do, that you are all continuing to do, to further, I don't even know if legacy is the right word, just furthering the evolutionary work. Her presence is strong, so she's here. It's a different form, which is not in form, but we are in tune.
I probably shouldn't have interrupted your flow.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I appreciate. I appreciate being able to speak to it more deeply that way. But that last program was really something. And the thing that I was going to say about that is that, like, that whole idea that Barbara talked about, I'm feeling newer. Like, we might, like, embody in these vessels, get older, yet we can feel newer because of the evolutionary impulse. And Barbara was completely new on that Thursday, April 4th. So she absolutely lived what she taught, without a doubt. So.
I just wanted to join in with that, Stephen, because we too really don't refer to her in the past tense. and we have a couple of folks here that actually live at the ranch, so are a part of her family community of the ranch that she was a part of for the last 2.5 years or so. And it's very, very interesting to us. We mentioned, I think, before the recording started, we recently did a screening of the American Visionary movie by Karen Everett at the Center for Spiritual Living. And for us, it was amazing to watch it again. We've screened it at like 3 or 4 or 5 different Unity churches and CSLs. And we're up here for the premiere in December 2 years ago. But watching it again is an opportunity, as she tells us, as she is and reminds us all to be new and every day, an opportunity to see her life as described through that documentary. For those of you who have not seen the documentary, we certainly would recommend it. And look at it anew, and then also be witness to people who are watching it for the first time and their reaction to it, based on whatever level of awareness or engagement or personal connection with Barbara that they ever had. And so that was very significant for us. Like I say, I really welcome you to others to do it. Would you expand a little bit on what you saw as Barbara, or what you understood to be Barbara's vision for a continuation of her legacy, and anything she might have communicated to you directly or since then, not with words? Right.
Yeah. The big thing was, to me, I mean, and I got this from my conversations with her as we were planning the academy, as well as what she was presenting in the academy sessions themselves, was that she was very turned on by, like, what you might say is a reemergence of taking action in the frame of of conscious evolution. So like everyone knows that Barbara had created the SynCon conferences in the 80s or the 70s and 80s. You know, and it was sort of like this golden age of SynCon is the way I think of it, where she's very active and really facilitating these great, profound gatherings of co-creation. And there are people, there have been people since then who've taken those SynCons and have done them in different venues. And Barbara has been involved to some extent in some of those. But that golden age, like the 70s and 80s, is when there was a large volume of these SynCons. And what she was excited about with the prospect of this ambassador program was that it was going to be a reemergence and like a new age of the SynCons, because she really wanted to redouble her efforts to bring the next generation of conscious evolutionaries to bring the work to Earth. You know, so you know, as you all know, and as you all are, you know, followers of Barbara's and embodying her work and the principles of conscious evolution, there was, to me, what I experienced in talking to her was that she was ready to like, the crisis point really is here now, right? She talked about so long throughout our crisis is a birth, you know, and we've been in crisis for a long, long time as a humanity. And now it was especially profound for her. And she, you know, is of the mind that let's really respond to the crisis that's before us, because we see the acceleration of so many systems, whether they're political, social, what have you, that are, you know, kind of separating. It's almost like the polarity is, to me, feels like it's a breaking apart. You know, there's polarity in so many realms, and okay, that's a crisis, and it's a big crisis. So it just felt to me that Barbara was so excited about preparing like this ambassador community and beyond to take tangible action across in all the sectors of the wheel. Yeah.
It's interesting because, and I really appreciate that answer. I'm just remembering Beth Meisner's closing words at the end of the movie. Barbara, your legacy is all of us, and we've got this. And so it was one of the things in the last couple of years Noelle and I were always challenged with, because she was never done. She was always every day new and every day a revelation, every day ready to go. That sometimes I think maybe she didn't appreciate how wide it has grown, how wide it's grown. And to me, one of the things that's very stark about that, like you said, so many different systems that are without question, without debate, falling apart. Political, economic, religion, so many things, not just in this country, but worldwide. It really struck us after watching Barbara's speech before the convention in the 80s as a part of our co-creators convergence, and then watching someone like Marianne Williamson, who is at a level of, regardless of politics or whatnot, to have someone who is speaking in the words, the terminology, and in the way that she is as a campaign for President of the United States, as is Tim Ryan, who is a very spiritual individual. And it's very clear that there are moments that sort of people are sticking their head up above all this craziness and speaking the kind of things that are in fact legacy that Barbara has spoken of for decades, literally.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite thing that when I get kind of, you know, we're political, social, environmental activists, and as well as students of Barbara Marx Hubbard. And so there's times where you can kind of feel like it can't get any, how can it get better? There's a lot of room for it to get better. And but then Barbara would always say, our crisis is a birth. And she's, said that in many of her movies, and that's when I go like, and a breakdown before a breakthrough. And so that gets me back on track to say, yeah, we're going through some really rough times here, but we're going to make it because we have that power. And I just have to believe that. Sometimes I have to remind myself.
Yeah.
But now, Stephen, the program that you and Barbara were doing is called the Ambassadors. Tell us more about the Ambassador program. Who can join? Do I need a passport? Is it open to everyone? What are the ambassadors unfolding at this time? Tell us about that program, if you would.
Sure. Yeah. So it was officially called the Evolutionary Ambassador Academy.
Okay.
And and it was designed as a 12-week program, and really about bringing people together to join genius, ultimately, which was one of Barbara's favorite things. And and we did an event the November before at Sunrise, which was a celebration event for the Awaken the New Species program, which had just ended, which was a year long. And then we announced the ambassador program there. And Barbara, her candor is one of the things I really admire, because she had said publicly in that event that her frustration with evolutionary leaders, and she put herself in this category. She didn't absolve herself of this, but that there's the devotion to the work, and they're not synergizing, and we're not synergizing. So that was really important to her. And so the ambassador program was very much about inviting people in and to take seriously the synergy, that everyone's coming into it for a greater purpose beyond their own individual calling, because we can get caught up in that, the ego of that. Mm-hmm. And she was really wanted to focus on nurturing the synergy of everyone. So the program has evolved since it's ended. We ended in May, and it's really now a community of practice. So this goes to your question about how can I get involved? So we, as a community of practice, the cohort continues to meet weekly, and we're actually, every ambassador is doing a deeper dive into what their work is. So that's one aspect. And then as well, there are subgroups of the ambassadors who are meeting, who are interested in being of service in different sectors of the wheel. So we have like a relations sector subgroup that meets every other week, for instance. There's an environmental one as well that is forming. There's an education one that's actually, so the education group consists of some ambassadors, as well as there's one person from the Conscious Business Enterprise program that you mentioned in my introduction, who is doing conscious work in education, as well as some other people who came to me independently, learned about the ambassador program, weren't in it themselves, but wanted to somehow contribute. So we linked them up in this other subgroup that was doing conscious education and conscious parenting. So really, the community of practice is growing organically. Mm-hmm. And as it stands now, I'm coordinating the efforts of connecting everyone. So if being an agent of conscious evolution, and if your interest is in applying the principles in a practical, very practical, tangible way in the world, is your calling, is what you're yearning to do, and you're looking for the community, that's where I would invite you to connect with me. And that's how you can get into the fold of this ambassador community of practice.
Well, Stephen, this kind of sounds like an online SynCon.
It very much, yeah, and it's an ongoing SynCon too, I would say. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, are you trying to, the Wheel of Co-Creation? I think everyone's probably familiar with Barbara's Wheel of Co-Creation, and the impulse of evolution in the center and all the different quadrants that what I always loved about her teaching was how to, you know, like when we go to college, we only study math, or we only study art. She was always about how do you mix that up? Yeah. And so I guess my question is that, you know, you're kind of doing it, are you trying to fill out the wheel of co-creation, or are you just saying, this is who we have right now, this is how we're going to expand it and mix it up?
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit of both. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the things, I was going back and reading Conscious Evolution, and one of the challenges that Barbara writes about in here is that there are people all over the world doing good. And this is like, if we can focus on what's going right, it's a tremendous help to us psychologically and practically. Mm-hmm. And she said one of our big challenges is in networking the networks.
Right.
Because there are these pockets of good being done, and a lot of people yet are reinventing the wheel. So going back to my invitation to connect people who are interested in different sectors, you know, let's use the education one, for example. If somebody's doing work in the education sector and has got some really good ideas, how can they best become aware of the evolutionary ideas that other people working in that sector are developing? Mm-hmm. Because then the anxiety becomes like feeling like, you know, and Barbara writes about this in her book Essence, like one of her struggles was that, do I have to be the one to save the world? And I think we all have that to some extent. However, if we really put our mind to it, we realize and we know that there are other people doing this work too. And if we could only join genius with them, we need not reinvent the wheel. No pun intended. So networking the networks was one of the big challenges that she said we really have at this point. Mm-hmm. So that's where, like, I feel the evolutionary impulse, especially in the wake of my partnering with Barbara, is like, okay, I feel like I'm a connector. Mm-hmm. You know, I can introduce people to one another, and I can support a structure for that. So that's like where my genius is, supporting this community of practice going forward. And it's just been wonderful because people who knew I was producing this program with Barbara, who I've never heard of before, started to reach out to me and say, wow, how could I support what you've been doing, or get connected? Are you going to do another ambassador program? But in some way felt like their impulse was to connect because they sensed that there were other connections happening, which is, and it's all organic. So, I mean, so going back to your question, I don't feel it's so much a need of like willfully trying to build out the wheel, but rather it's trusting the process that the wheel is creating itself.
I like that even better.
Yeah.
Bob, did you have a question?
Yeah, and then how does the conscious business efforts that you're involved in relate to this? Or maybe it doesn't, but there certainly seems like there would be connections. I mean, there are a number of other growing pockets of bringing into light and supporting conscious businesses. Kathy Mason, does live streams a couple of times a week, probably, with people lifting, and many others are doing things to bring more consciousness and bring it into the daylight, literally, not just the light, but the daylight, that people are actually talking and using those kind of terms and appreciating the significance of having conscious business initiatives. How, if any, does that relate to
is there crosstalk or
the ambassador program, or are those kind of separate things at this point that you see as coming toward each other?
Well, I mean, the conscious business, movement, whether it's the Humanities Team program or any of the other conscious business initiatives that are happening out there, I mean, they're all working in the economic sector of the wheel. So there isn't, let's not silo ourselves off. So when you ask me that question, like I just, the thing that was really profound for me, especially having taught the Conscious Business Initiative. And one, like, you know, and I appreciate Kathy being here because I was on her program talking about it a few several weeks ago. And then Gina is actually one of our contributors. So it's good to see Gina here. And then Judith is one of, does a lot of support for Humanities team in getting the word out. So I'm grateful for all of you being here. The conscious business is one component of the economic sector of the wheel. Mm-hmm. And it's all connected in a web. So there's nothing separate about conscious business apart from conscious evolution and the work that, you know, that Barbara had envisioned. Mm-hmm. So like I'm looking for opportunities of, all right, how can I be a better steward of the Conscious Business Enterprise program so that it's supporting other programs and so that we can ask for support? Because I mean, frankly, we've been somewhat siloed, and coming off of the ambassador program, the thing that I made peace with very quickly was Barbara's SynCon question of like, what do I need help with?
Right.
And let me go out and ask for it. Mm-hmm. Because this is where this is the evolutionary behavior to cooperate. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we do have to ask for that. Actually, all the time we have to ask for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Stephen, I do want to open this up for questions and comments from everyone. I do want to say that Kathy Mason did put in the chat ISSS.org, the International Society of Systems Sciences, and a link where she interviewed you. Yeah. So I just want to put that into the record here. Some people may not get the chat when they pick this up later, so look for that. But how can people find out more or get involved with the Ambassador Program?
Sure. But if you want to just contact me directly, my email is just Dynako, my last name, @gmail.com. Just send me an email. I'll get back with you for sure. And,
okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and I'm going to open this up for questions. If you don't want to speak, but you'd rather type your question, if you put it into the chat, I will share that with Stephen. So I'm just going to mute everyone, but if you're in a really noisy environment, please just mute yourself back.
Yeah, questions, comments, connection, conversation.
Okay, so unmute all, cross your fingers.
Kathy's got her hand up.
Yeah.
Okay, go Kathy.
The reason why I put that link in the chat for International Society for System Sciences is that I was a volunteer for them 2 or 3 years ago when they had their international conference here. That was their 60th conference. So this is a group of scientists that create systems which is kind of what's missing, I think, in a lot of this work. There's a lot of great ideas, but the landing of it is somebody creating applicable, you do this, then this, then this, then this type of systems. And Ernest Laszlo, who was very close with Barbara, I spent a bunch of time with Andrew, his son, who lives in Argentina. When I did that event, that's how I met Mila Popovich. I videotaped her for the marketing for that.
I remember that.
Yeah, so there's some remarkable resources for you, Stephen, through there, and I'd be glad to introduce you to John Killiman and several other people that might be able to help you, because that's the missing piece.
Yeah,
I think, and they although they're scientists. So I was in a room, and one half of the room, there was a big auditorium at the university. One half's going, "We need more data," and the other half's screaming, "We don't need more data. We need to do something." So there is still, 60 some years of that, but at least I mean, you'll see there's quite a talent pool in that's already conscious, already working on new systems, that might be great resources. That's all.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Kathy. Thank you. I'll take you up on that introduction offer.
Oh, sure.
Too. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we got a kitty. Thank you.
We're cat sitting, and that cat has not talked to us once until this call started. And so I don't.
Which one of you is the cat, or how many of you are cat people?
There.
Some cat
I'm a
whisperer.
cat person.
I am.
It has totally ignored us until Stephen came on.
Maybe I'm the cat person.
Well, at least
appreciate
it's not.
I appreciate what you're saying about scientists too,
Yeah.
because when I just was typing in Wheel of Co-Creation as you were talking, Stephen, about it being about economics, and many of the people would can categorize themselves within the economic sector. And of course, when I put in Wheel of Co-Creation, Marks Hubbard, she started talking to me through YouTube. But but I'm looking at other sectors here where there's also education, environment, health, infrastructure, media. These are places, and science. These are places where there are businesses engaged in work, and many of them, or an increasing number of them, hopefully, in conscious business practices that are supporting in those sectors as well. So there's just so much potential. It's wonderful.
Yeah, whenever I get frustrated, I always think of Barbara saying, we're pioneers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so pioneers, the roads aren't there.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of different paths that you can take. And yeah, it's a big puzzle.
Yeah.
Who would also like to welcome Leanne?
Hi, Leanne.
You're able to join
Hi.
us. And
Certainly.
Beth has also joined us later. Thank you, Beth. So who would like to speak with, ask a question or jump in here? Was that Don?
Well,
Come on, Don.
Don's one of our ambassadors, by the way.
I kind
I
of suspected that was
figured.
true.
Yay.
it's interesting you mentioned going back to 2013, the very first meeting, that you were one of the original people and I was one of the original 30 people.
Yeah.
And we followed her ever since. I've taken virtually every course that she's offered and heard some of the same things. I remember her saying at one time that she was very good at getting people interested in her ideas, but she was concerned that people would ask her what to do once they got interested, and she wasn't sure what to do. And you know, she's going through various areas. From at one point she was looking to get message from extraterrestrials, and now with the evolutionary church, you know, the focus was on pretty much prayer. And then I think the latest thing that she was interested in was small groups, the idea that they come together rapidly in small groups. And so I tend to support that idea. I think we have this marvelous technology that we're using right here, this Zoom technology, which is sort of the process that, in my point of view, can bring us all together. And we can have many small groups. So I think that would be very important. From my point of view, the most important contribution that Barbara made was that she broke the code of telling us the accurate story of us. You know, we've had a lot of, first we had no stories for 3.5 billion years because no one could speak, or we had language. And then we had all sorts of stories, superstition and magic and so on. And we had stories about a male god who is very jealous and, you know, punishes people forever and so on. So she really introduced the idea that we have an accurate history of the past. She picked this up, of course, from Darwin. And, you know, this was her, she was the champion of evolution. And evolution is the new story of us. It's the story of who we are and what is our purpose. And to me, this is important because if we can create a trajectory of where we started from where we are today, that is a line from past to present, we have the ability to project that trajectory to the future. You see, so we can be future forecasters if we have an accurate trajectory. And so what she's really done is given us the interest in getting away from some of the old stories to the new story, that gives us the opportunity for the first time, I think, call it truth or whatever, to get an understanding of who we are and where we're headed. And this is where I think is the next step, is the action step. What is the call to action now? How does evolution going to lead us to solve these new problems? My area of interest, as you know, has been world peace. And I think probably the biggest immediate problem we have is why we have 9 countries with nuclear weapons on ready unleashed status, who could, just at the push of a button or mechanical error, could end everything in a matter of moments. And for some reason, we don't seem to be paying that much attention. But I think Barbara, to me, what she's done and why I followed her so long is she's really opened up that idea, truth, the understanding of science, who we are and where we can go from here. And if we create that accurate story and we bring our ideas together in a meeting like this, I think what you've been doing here, for example, since 2013, not only in these meetings, but everybody knows that you've been traveling around the world basically in this van of yours, and every place spreading the word, spreading Barbara's word and other people's word. So my hat's off to you as well, because you've done a wonderful job of all that. And this kind of thing that we're doing right now is the way, I think, to go. So thank you for allowing me to chair that.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don.
And Don, would you put in the chat there, your Peace Academy?
Sure. It's very so simple, though. It's www.peace.academy. There's no dot or .org or whatever. It's www.academy. And we have a wonderful website now. And what I would just offer you, I've arranged for a professional speaker and actor to make 10 recordings. I call it the 7+2 formula. There are 2 recordings that are the most powerful recordings that teach love creation, the golden rule. And then there's 7 simple word changes that teach a new way of thinking, which was Einstein's idea to change the world. His idea is we have to teach people a way of thinking where we cooperate with one another rather than compete. And of course, that's Barbara's idea of synergistic democracy. That's essentially
right.
What
and we just had Judith put in the chat, evolution is now said to be selecting for cooperation. I'm not sure what delete M means. But,
just real quick to respond to Don's observation about, Barbara might have been a little hesitant to answer the question, well, how do I do it? And, one of Barbara's geniuses is surrounding herself with people who do. And the Ambassador Academy cohort is certainly that community of practice. They're people who are devoted to the integration of the principles with their doing nature.
mm-hmm.
So one of the really powerful exercises that we did early on was ask everyone to write their evolutionary autobiography.
Wow.
And I would invite everyone here to do that too. And from the perspective of the principles of conscious evolution, tell your story. And you could write a whole book. Everyone could write a book on it, I'm sure. But if you could do it in 5 pages, just to make it a realistic objective, take 5 pages and just go through your life and then document where you have actually answered the call of evolution in your life. And I'm sure you'll surprise yourself. When you realize like how the evolutionary impulse has always been acting as you. And so everyone in the academy did that, and Barbara read every one of those, and she was just so inspired by the depth of talent and genius that everyone had. And that's true with everyone on this call right now as well.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's very powerful. Someone else like to jump into the conversation here? Then I'm going to call on someone.
I'll jump in.
Good,
All right, I was just going to call on you.
Hey, Julie.
Hello, Stephen. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying this conversation, and And so I'm feeling very passionate in the moment. I know that shortly after Barbara passed, I shared with Stephen my last meeting with Barbara, and she felt compelled to read to me her last journal entry of the morning. And she had asked the beloved, because we had been in discussion. She was saying, I don't know whether my time here is up or not. I don't know if there's anything more for me to do. So she had asked the beloved, is there anything more you want from me? What more can I do? And she said, I'll read to you what the answer was. And I don't really remember what it was, but she looked at me and said, Julie, how do I do this? And what I gathered from the response was, the thing left to do is have a global SynCon. And Barbara, once we said that out loud, she had some very clear ideas about what she thought that should look like. And one of the ideas was she would be on stage as Mother Hubbard, and Lady Gaga would come on and sing "A Star Is Born," and that would kick off like a global joining of genius. And so, as you know, and since then, I've been like, I don't even know my first step. And I've talked to Bob and Noel and several people, and what I'm getting is just keep talking about it. At first, I was in that place where I was like, oh my God, this is a huge responsibility. I'm the one, because Barbara's like, how do you know how to do this? And I'm like, I don't know. I was born with this vision, but I don't know how to pull it off. So, so I think what you're talking about, Stephen, in the networking networks is huge, because what I've been envisioning is an online platform where it's a live wheel that has a big kickoff, but it continues to work. And it's interesting. There's a lot of synchronicities happening with technologies that are being developed because Barbara inspired somebody. And they're, like you said, she surrounded herself with doers. And so they said, I'll create this with you, Barbara. And then Barbara went on to something else, but they still created the technology. So I see opportunities. But I'm really inviting everyone in to say, join me in this vision that Barbara had, and how does this come about? Shortly after she passed, she's been very present with me as well, and the date, Earth Day 2020, keeps coming in as the date this is supposed to happen. And I'm like, that's less than a year away. And then the answer I get is, it's already created in the non-physical, like energetically, it's already there. There's something synergistically that happens that just boom, it's like it's all there. Everybody who's been inspired by Barbara has already created their piece of this. We just need to follow the breadcrumbs, put it all together. So I'm happy to talk to anyone and everyone about the vision that Barbara put forth, to have these sectors online where people can interact globally, and how we can also, you know, what came to me, and I think Stephen and I talked about this, like the 6 degrees of separation, that everyone in the world could know what conscious evolution was. And then we came to the point where we said, it's with the internet, it's not even 6 degrees of separation anymore. It's 1 degree. And so to get people excited about, hey, there are solutions, to jump on board, let's be a part of this.
Yeah, let me respond to. I appreciate that, Julie, and I remember that last. I think it was the last day or two. I was at Sunrise for that retreat. And I appreciated our conversation. So it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
So one of the software, and Barbara had worked with different technology developers. One of the most mature tools that has come about is a tool called Nectar, and I'll put the URL in the chat. It's nectar.earth. But basically, Barbara began working a few years ago with there are two developers of this tool called Nectar, which is essentially a conscious social media network. So think of it as being like a kind of like Facebook, but with a conscience, and also integrating the principles of conscious evolution, as well as being able to create a structure so that people can express where they're interested in the wheel of co-creation, and then being able to connect with one another in that framework. And in the wake of the ambassador program, while I was out in Boulder for our retreat for the Ambassador Academy, I had the opportunity to meet with Nectar, and we've been helping them beta test that platform ever since. So I'd invite. So that's probably one of the most mature technology solutions for supporting connecting people in Barbara's vision of conscious evolution.
Yes.
So
I've met with Eros. We had a very awesome discussion. He loved Barbara so much.
Yeah.
Still loves Barbara. And is in contact, of course. And he, I asked if live streaming was an option, and he said he would make it so. But it's not there yet. But I've definitely got him on board. He's very excited. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, and it's still coming along. It's still being developed, and so it's an iterative process for sure.
Well, I think that's wonderful, to know about a conscious Facebook. I have a friend who's doing a conscious Amazon. It's all developed and just can't get the platform out there to the public. So just has some products, but maybe I should introduce the two of them.
Absolutely.
But it's 7:36 or 36 after the hour. We said we're going to go an hour, but I don't want to cut anyone off. If Stephen is willing to continue. I do have I have a question about the ambassadors. Is there a fee to be a part of the ambassadors that you pay to become part of that?
No. The community of practice is all self-organized and just operating as its own community. So there's no entity, kind of legal or otherwise, needs to be paid for it. So
it's kind of like the co-creators convergence.
Yeah.
And okay, Gina.
You unmuted?
You unmuted.
Is that a sign?
Yeah, I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go.
No, I just think this is just so wonderful, and I agree that Barbara's still present for sure. I was just talking about her earlier today with another phone call, and I mean, it's just amazing how her energy and her inspiration continues. I wanted to just say, I mean, there's so many wonderful things that could be added to this conversation, but I'm just inspired by how she was so devoted to her journaling. And, of course, she published so much stuff. But even, just in her last years, like, she was just so avid about continuing to journal every day and getting inspiration from that. And thank goodness, right? Because she left so much instruction for us. And, as a writer, I'm just inspired by that from her. And
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We were her neighbor right across the street at Sunrise, and Julie was part of that too, helped pack up everything with Sherwood, her executor.
Yeah.
And yes, all those precious journals were there. And everything has kind of gone into storage right now. But you think like, wow, you get to peek in, and just holding them is just amazing to have that experience. And I'm not really a writer, but definitely a follower. But does anyone else want to jump in here in our closing moments? Kat, did I see you raise your hand over there? Wave at us.
Yeah, I wanted to just say, like, because I'm interested in getting people, like having groups of people, getting people in touch with their universal selves and their passions in life. So that's sort of like putting them on the wheel, what gives them joy and stuff. And I just wonder if there's any sort of, we sort of started a bit of a group there, Stephen, but I sort of haven't heard anything from it. Like, it's good to have a little small group of people that are sort of interested in facilitating groups like that too. Has there been any more movement on that? I think you were going to check up some things as well, so we didn't have to recreate the wheel. And
Right. Yeah. I think, are you referring to Rebecca Becker's?
Yeah. Sort of like I've talked to her a bit, but I think she's been busy and sort of.
Yeah. Well, as I'm actually speaking with her tomorrow, so I'll find out where things are at with her efforts, and happy to circle back with you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because also I guess it'd be good to join, like just have a little small group that is wanting to do that we could meet and join. So if there's anything like that happening.
Yeah, and Don, I see Don's got his hand up. I know where he's going to go with this, so go ahead, Don.
I have a team that I've been meeting with from my peace group for a long time. And one of my team members is the happiness person for IBM. So she got us, because IBM does a lot of business with Zoom, she got us a meeting with the director of technology, the director of education for Zoom. And we pitched him about our program, and he seemed to be quite impressed. At the end of our meeting, he said, I will give you free 50 pro-level links to our technology to start groups. And actually, I'm working out with Steve now that he will actually manage and distribute these links. So these are free links with the idea that we would start 50, if we could start 50 conversation groups anywhere around the world using this free technology. And so, for example, if you have a group of people that are dedicated to want to meet regularly, you can talk to Stephen. We're just getting it set up to distribute them now. We have some things we have to do to keep a record. And the other thing is the director of education for Zoom said that he'll check with us in several months, and if he likes what we do, we'll even do more. So it really is my concept is if we need to have need to start a movement like Alcoholics was started with a couple of alcoholic men. They spread very rapidly, and now they're around the world. They're free. They're available to everybody. And I think this is the one possibility I'm aware of. These Zoom groups, the technology is so wonderful that you can bring people around the world. And one of the problems we're having today, as you're well aware of, is loneliness. There are a lot of people who just want to contact with people, and they have no way of doing it. So this serves a second purpose apart from the education opportunity, just the idea of bringing people together. So I think it's a wonderful possibility. I would urge anybody here who has a group that is interested, get in touch with Stephen and we'll set up with the group. But we don't want to waste
Very exciting, Don.
Yeah, we're very excited about all this.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly that's Don's work as an ambassador is that effort, and he's of course part of our continuing community, and I'm grateful to be supporting his work by helping to administer those.
Wow.
Fabulous. Okay, one final round before last call for all.
Last call for conscious conversation.
For Stephen, anyone have any comments, questions? I don't see Gary had to run, and so did Judith. They send their love and thanks.
I just want to say sorry, Stephen. I was late, but I will listen to the recording. I don't have any questions. I'm just very grateful to see you and to see everyone.
Thanks, Leanne. No, thank you. I'm glad you're here too.
Yes,
Appreciate
thanks
you.
for arranging this, Leanne. And the recording will be up on our website. You can look. I think it's Love CCC is the name of our group on Facebook. But it will also be. Give us a couple days. It'll be up on our website, co-creatorsconvergence.com. Bob, how do you have that there? Under archives, and then
Under the archives tab, or call archives or something like that at the top.
Yeah. So with that, I think we're so blessed to have this time together, the small group, which we hopefully will continue to multiply. And I know that Bob and I have done one presentation at least since Barbara's embodied her whole consciousness, or her full consciousness, or however we want to say it. And I got to tell you that the people, she is so powerful. She is so with us that I have people calling me at home just saying they couldn't get to sleep after our presentation, that they, felt Barbara, and then 2 weeks later bringing me books of Barbara and asking me questions about Barbara. It was just, and then they invited us back in September to do a follow-up presentation about Barbara. So we feel very, very blessed to have had her in our lives. She's certainly changed the trajectory of our lives and so many that we know, and we're so grateful for Stephen, for you spending the time with us, everyone here tonight. And we send our love out to all of those that couldn't be here on the call and wanted to, and just send the vibe out that more people pick up this call and join the ambassadors. And we do that by contacting you, Stephen. Is that how we get into the ambassadors?
Yeah. That's the best way. Just email me, and then I can set up time to share more detail about specifics and where people's impulses are taking them, and how I might help guide that. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing, I know you have some other websites. Would you mention those websites, Stephen, in terms of how people can connect with you there too?
Yeah, there's it's very early stage. There's a site that is a co-creation of the ambassador community, but not exclusively, because the vision is for this to continue to be a co-creation of co-creators of Barbara's as well, and people who followed her work. Or you don't even have to have ever met her to do this, but I'm calling it the Conscious Evolution Action Platform, and I'll put the link in the chat.
Would you? Yeah. Oh, there we go. Well, you're fast.
Platform. Yeah, I had it up, so I copied it. But basically, if anyone has a wisdom or a program around that supports the principles of conscious evolution, specifically as it relates to supporting any sector of the wheel and evolving, it's a place where we can truly co-create a curriculum that helps bring us as a humanity into that, beyond that crisis point, and into evolution. Barbara said we're at the point where we can either choose to evolve or devolve. Then I as a potentialist, want to believe that our impulse is really to evolve. So this platform is a way that we can co-create, join genius, and support others in doing that. So at that website right now, it's kind of in beta, but you can sign up to be on the email list as things get launched, because I'm working with some of the ambassadors right now to create programming for it.
Wonderful. Stephen, I see it's maybe it's spelled wrong. Is it spelled correctly? It's CEA?
Oh, wait, hang on. Let me recopy.
Or is it Creation Platform? Just want to make
Oh,
sure everybody gets correct information.
Creationplatform.com.
No, if you look at, I just put it in again. It's,
CE Action.
right, for conscious
Wow.
evolution action.
Conscious evolution action.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Get that out.
This one is, all right. I'm glad we got that clarified because
Thank
I was
you.
thinking, are you spelling creation wrong? I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, conscious evolution action, but ceactionplatform.com for short.
Wonderful.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for coming tonight. Thank you so much to our guests, Stephen and Bob. Do you have anything?
Wonderful evening. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and join us for the
More-
third Thursday of July that'll be
Another
August?
month. Yeah.
Next month. We'll have another guest. Bye, everybody.
Suggest
Thank you,
someone.
everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Love you.
Love to you all.
And, being new.